Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here. And for this video, we are talking about Cauldron Films and Neon Eagle. And the two are intertwined, and I will explain that when I get to it. But Cauldron Films, of course, born out of collaboration between Jesse Nelson and Brian Izzy. Jesse Nelson, of course, the man behind Diabolic DVD, which, you know, I may be biased. Obviously, they support my podcast and both of them actually, and such. But one of the reasons that I wanted to get involved with them is because Jesse's great and because I really love Diabolic. I use Diabolic all the time, and it's my go-to place for imports that I get, you know, Region B lock stuff, Second Sight, tons of stuff I will get from Diabolic. And so anyway, I love what they do, and Cauldron is a really interesting extension. And if you haven't checked out my recent interview with Jesse and Brian Izzy about the Houses of Doom set that they did, which was their first box set for Cauldron Films, and which I believe may be sold out now. I'm not 100% on that. I think standard editions are coming of that, but don't quote me there. Regardless, it was a great conversation. They're great guys. And so I'm going to talk about a bunch of the Cauldron releases from the last year or so. I'm going to start with Ratman, which is definitely a fascinating movie that I had never seen. In fact, I had never heard of any of these films I'm about to talk about until they were announced and or released by Cauldron or Neon Eagle. So Ratman is, I guess this slipcover edition is sold out, I believe, but it is a movie from 1988. It is Italian. It's pretty unique, and it's one of those movies that has some great moments for sure. There's an actor, I just have to look at my notes really quick, that plays Ratman himself, and he is Nelson De La Rosa, a 2'4" actor, and he was in a few films, but he definitely makes this film more effective because he is so small, and yet he's a real person, and so he moves. I mean, there's definitely some stuff where they're using, you know, special effects like the clawed hands and things. You can tell maybe not puppetry, but there's some stuff happening that's not him. But when he is in a room and he jumps on somebody, it is alarming. The little synopsis they have on the website is: after her fashion model sister is brutally murdered on a tropical island, Terry flies out to investigate the shocking crime. As the mystery deepens, Terry and her new friend Fred, that's David Warbeck, quickly find that there is a killer on the loose. As the body count mounts, the survivors work desperately to outmaneuver the shadowy monster that is hunting them down one by one. Could it be Dr. Ullman's deadly genetic experiment has escaped from captivity, or is it just a typical knife-wielding psychopath? Well, sorry to have spoiled that, but no, it is definitely the former, you know, genetic experiment, combining a rat and a man. And he escapes in the first scene, which is great because you're just like, oh, well, here we go. He's on the loose. You know, when I saw this title, I immediately thought of the Sandra Locke film Rat Boy, which is more along the lines of The Elephant Man than like a horror slasher movie. So it's a little sad and such. This is definitely more of a monster slasher thing. It is one of those movies where the slashing happens just enough to kind of keep things moving. But that plot synopsis is kind of inaccurate in a way because the Terry character played by Janet Agron, you know, comes out to this tropical island and immediately finds, you know, goes to the police and to identify a body that is supposed to be her sister, and it is not her sister. And so she's like, "What are you doing? You know, you've traumatized me." And she has to identify yet another body a little later that isn't her sister either. So, you know, it's one of those things where her sister survives in the movie a lot longer than that synopsis would lead you to believe. But the people that do get killed by the Rat Man get mauled pretty bad. He also has like some kind of, I don't know if it's, I can't remember if it's in his spit or what, but he has some poisonous fluids that basically when he scratches you, if the scratch itself doesn't kill you, the poison will. And so it's a fascinating movie. Definitely nuts. Definitely has some whoa moments, which is definitely the kind of cinema I feel like some folks are on the lookout for, you know, the whoa moments, the like, what the kind of moments. It says produced by Fabrizio De Angelis, who produced The Beyond, directed by Giuliano Carnameo. They list Exterminators of the Year 3000, but he also did Case of the Bloody Iris, which came out from Celluloid Dreams on 4K this year, and it was actually one of my favorite 4Ks and one of my favorite giallos that I've seen recently. So I do find it interesting to have seen two of Carnameo's films in 2024 when I was not aware of him as a filmmaker previous to this year. It's written by Dardano Sacchetti, who wrote a ton of stuff. They list The Bronx Warriors, but I mean, he wrote a ton of Italian films that you'd know. And, you know, is an interesting, literate, intelligent screenwriter. And so as goofy as some of these movies are, he's still pretty solid in the way he puts some of this stuff together. But it is very Italian in its way. It's very strange and has a certain logic all its own. With a score by Stefano Minetti, who did Zombie 3, and starring the one and only Nelson De La Rosa as Mousy. And I guess he was also in The Island of Dr. Moreau, but he's in some other stuff as well. Ratman is exactly what you'd expect from in a late 80s bloody and unhinged Italian horror meltdown. Cauldron Films is pleased to present Ratman restored in 4K from the original negative and filled with fantastic extras. So this comes with a Blu-ray, but it also comes with a CD soundtrack, which is something I find a nice addition. And Jesse and Brian definitely are fans of doing this as part of their releases. If you check out the Houses of Doom set, there's soundtracks in there, and I think they've done it in some other releases as well. The print and the transfer looks great. You know, I mean, obviously I don't have anything to compare it to, but feels like the kind of movie you would have watched on a bootleg VHS, you know, years and years ago, and now it's looking crystal clear. In terms of the extras, there's Lighting the Rat Man, interview with cinematographer Roberto Girometti, and Framing the Rat Man, interview with camera operator Federico Del Zappo, as well as Just a Fin, an audio interview with post-production consultant Alberto DiMartino, and commentary by film historians Eugenio Orcolani, Troy Howarth, and Nathaniel Thompson. These guys have been involved in some other commentaries for Cauldron. I feel like they're on at least one, if not more than one, of the Houses of Doom discs. It's an all-region disc. It is. It has a reversible. I mean, again, this slipcase, this side-loading slipcase, is no longer available. But here's the reverse artwork, which looks very Italian in its way. But yeah, fascinating movie, and comes with a mini poster and again the soundtrack as well. So a nice release from Cauldron, and definitely a crazy movie if you're looking for some crazy movies. You know, feels like one that Vinegar Syndrome could have released, and that people would be flipping out a little bit more about. But if you haven't seen it, it is definitely worth your time. That's Ratman. And then we have The Last Match. And this one, I mean, it's a great cover, and it definitely captures, you know, kind of what the movie is, at least in the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. There's a long build up to that, but it's still fascinating. Get ready for the most important game of your life, where one mistake means game over. What do you do when your daughter is framed for drug smuggling during a Caribbean vacation while being held in a jail by a sadistic warden, played by Henry Silva, who's a great sadistic anything, really. If you're a football star, Cliff Gaylor, Oliver Tobias, you call an audible and do whatever you can to get her out. But when the American consulate, Charles Napier, Beyond the Valley of Dolls, he's in some other Russ Meyer movies and Jonathan Demme movies, doesn't want to be involved, and the local attorney, Martin Balsam, who's in just tons of stuff, I'm a big Marty Balsam fan, only wants you to grease his palm with no guarantees. Your only choice is to take matters into your own hands. Before he can even call the next play, his coach, Ernest Borgnine, so this cast is great, and the rest of the football team in full uniform are on a plane packed with weapons and money aimed to free his daughter or die trying. Veteran Italian producer and director Fabrizio De Angelis, again, Ratman. The Last Match starts as an engaging exploitation drama about a father's frustration of trying to free his daughter from the evils of another country's prison that quickly escalates into a jaw-dropping, action-packed showdown where no helicopter is safe. With a screenplay co-written by Gianfranco Clarici, who worked on The New York Ripper, and his frequent collaborator, Vincenzo Menino, The Sweet House of Horrors, which is one of the movies in the House of Doom box set, and shot by Giuseppe Rossellini, Duck You Sucker. The Last Match is a classic early 90s action spectacle, making its U.S. home video and worldwide Blu-ray debut from the new 4K restoration struck from the camera negative, featuring all new special features. Another one that looks way better than it should, and that is definitely something that Cauldron's doing well, is finding good materials and doing good restorations. This movie is definitely something I would have seen on a bootleg and never would have expected to look this good. In terms of extras, Blown Away, an interview with special effects artist Roberto Ricci, 16 minutes, American actors in a declining Italian cinema, mini doc by Eurocrime director Mike Malloy, that's about 29 minutes long. Understanding the Cobra, a video essay by Italian film expert Eugenio Orcolani, 17 minutes, and commentary by Italian exploitation movie critic Michael A. Martinez. This also has a reversible wrap, although I think this is cool too, but I think I like the whole gang in their uniforms. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies where you kind of go, I didn't know I needed more movies with football players dressed in full football gear carrying, a ton of weapons, but why hasn't this happened more? It's one of those questions that you kind of ask yourself after you watch it. And by that last sequence, I think that's one thing that a lot of these movies have in common, is that they might make you wait a little while to get to the jaw-dropping stuff, but when it gets there, it delivers on that, and this is one of those movies that does deliver in the last 15 minutes or so. I sometimes have a little less patience than I should for movies that wait a while to deliver the craziness, but I know that there's others out there who have more patience and will be able to make it through. But this cast definitely helps elevate this whole thing, because you're watching some really cool people interact in this sort of bureaucratic way with our lead father guy who's trying to get his daughter, and she is wrongfully accused. Like, somebody stuffs some drugs in her bag as she's leaving the airport with her boyfriend, and she's supposed to get like 5 to 12 years, and so he really does try, and I get that, he really does try to get her off the hook legally, but it's just not going to happen. So got to bring in the football team, got to make a mess. So that's The Last Match, and I went through the features on that. This is an all-region disc, which is another thing I appreciate about the Cauldron stuff. A lot of these are all-region, although the next one looks like it's not. The next two, never mind. Some of them are all-region. Okay, so next one is called Off Balance, but if you're looking for it online, you may also see a title of Phantom of Death. And this one's got a good cast too. It is Michael York headlining, Edwig Finch as well, and Donald Pleasance as this sort of police lieutenant. Is he lieutenant or is he? I can't remember. The rage of a man forced to die has no limits. Yeah, this is a really interesting one because I've never seen quite this story told before. When a mysterious disease befalls young virtuosic pianist Robert Dominici, that's Michael York, he begins a violent, murderous rampage, taunting authorities with his whereabouts. As Robert's brain and body rapidly decay, Inspector Dottie, that's Donald Pleasance, must race to find him before he kills again. Directed by Ruggero Deodato, Cannibal Holocaust, among others. Co-starring Edwig Finch, Giovanni Lombardo Radis, and special effects by Dino Galliano, who did Four Flies on Grey Velvet, and written by Gianfranco Clerici, House of Clocks. We just talked about him. Off Balance is an 80s giallo-infused carnal ride of violence and body horror seen through the mind of a genius driven mad by a cruel, unstoppable disease. Cauldron Film presents Off Balance for the first time ever on Blu-ray, uncut and restored in 2K from the camera negative. Featuring one of the final interviews with the controversial director Ruggero Deodato and commentary by Troy Howarth and Eugenio Ercolani, this release is a must-have for Italian horror maniacs. Yeah, so it is interesting to see this play out, and I do like the idea of a killer who's been ID'd by people, but continues to age. So he actually sort of can hide himself because he doesn't look like he did when he committed the first murder. And as he gets older, he almost becomes unrecognizable to people that even know him intimately because he is aging so much, and he has aged a lot by the end of the film. And it's another one that gets kind of crazy in the last 15 minutes, but Michael York, a very serious actor, and is taking this role seriously, as wild as this movie gets. But it's definitely one of those that, I found it interesting, this idea of this very giallo-esque, this killer wears gloves even, and at first we don't really know, but it's revealed pretty early that it's him. And so it's interesting to watch it play out and see where it goes by the end. And yeah, it definitely held my attention, and again, looks great for, this kind of film and the age of it. 2K restoration from the negative. Optional English subtitles, Italian audio with subtitles. One of the things I love about all these discs is that they are Italian films. They tend to offer, you go to the setup and they offer like English audio with SDH subtitles, Italian audio with English subtitles. You can set it up right there. And I mostly like to watch things with English audio and SDH subtitles just because sometimes you might miss something. I just get used to it. It's just one of those things I tend to put subtitles on, even if I'm not reading them consistently. It's just one of my things. But I also I enjoy a good Italian dub, or any country dub for that matter, and it does something to the movie that changes it. I don't know. It makes it more compelling to me, even though it looks disconnected when the people anyway. So in terms of extras, this has an uncommon director, an interview with Ruggero Deodato, and that's one of the final interviews with the controversial director, filmed in July 2022, and it's more than half an hour with him, which is great to have. Commentary with Eugenio Ercolani and Troy Howarth, as mentioned. I showed you the reversible wrap with the alternate Phantom of Death artwork. This is a Region A disc. Some of these are contractually obligated to only ship the item to U.S. and Canada, so there will be some of these that you won't be able to get through Diabolic for legal reasons. You may be able to get them other ways, eBay, etc. But for legal reasons, they can't be sent outside the U.S. or Canada. 166-1. Yeah, it's fascinating, this one. Interesting stuff for sure. That's Off Balance. Next we have Topline. This is another one that has an alternate title that gives you look at that and you're like, oh, Indiana Jones or something, right? And then inside we see that this film is also known as Alien Terminator. and you're like, wait a minute, what is that about? And then you look at the back, and you see like that crazy looking robot dude with his eye hanging out, and you're like, what is this movie? And another one that yet again really front load or back loads the craziness, because it really gets nuts in the last 15 minutes. Almost just becomes a different movie. But down and out author Ted Angelo, Franco Nero, finds a UFO while searching a cave for treasure. When he tries to warn the media, he soon becomes haunted by various clandestine organizations, but with the help of his friend June, Deborah Moore, they search for the truth while evading certain death. Have aliens taken over the world? I want to believe. Co-starring George Kennedy, William Berger, and Mary Staven, directed by Nello Rassati, with gooey practical effects by Francesco and Gaetano Paolucci, who worked on Silver Bullet, among other things. Topline is a late 80s mind-melting sci-fi adventure with all new special features, including an interview with the legend himself, Franco Nero, and sourced from a 2K scan of the camera negative. Cauldron Films is out of this world pleased to present this future classic for the first time ever on Blu-ray. Topline is here to win hearts and take over minds. Yeah, it is nutty. Again, a little bit of a slow starter, and there is more conspiracy stuff than you would think in a movie that's also known as Alien Terminator. But it definitely lives up to that title in the last 15 minutes or so, when it really just straight up becomes like a Terminator movie. And that's super fun and gooey and just like, what? And again, giving those sort of whoa moments of cinematic discovery that, I enjoy, and certainly those that are fans of Italian cinema must enjoy, because that's a lot of what Italian cinema does in terms of really bringing it in that last reel. Let's say again, so English audio with optional English SDH subtitles, also has Italian audio with subtitles. The extras include that interview with Franco Nero, which is 22 minutes. The Strange Case of Ted Archer, an interview with Eugenio Ercolani, 33 minutes. Alien Terminated, the alien theories of Topline by parapolitics researcher Robert Skvarla, 12 minutes. And an in-depth audio commentary by film historian Eric Zaldivar, including audio interviews from cast members Deborah Moore and Robert Redcross, with additional insight on Italian cult films with actors Brett Halsey and Richard Harrison. I showed you the reverse wrap. This is a Region A disc. This is another one that cannot be shipped by them outside the US and Canada, but definitely an intriguing, sci-fi adventure, I guess, is a good way to sum it up, ultimately. So that is Topline. And then we get, I have one Neon Eagle title and one more Cauldron. This is the new Neon Eagle. It's called I Want to Get Even. And for those that don't know, Neon Eagle is sort of a sub-label of Cauldron. And Cauldron Films, in collaboration with Mondo Macabro's Jared Honor, are proud to announce the formation of the new home video boutique imprint Neon Eagle Video. The label will focus on the trashier side of Asian cinema, highlighting exploitation, action, horror, and other cult films that have been neglected in the high-definition era. And so they've already put out a few things like Kill Butterfly Kill, Zero Woman, Red Handcuffs, Ninja Terminator, and now this one, I Want to Get Even, which is pretty nuts. Another one that really goes crazy in the last 15 minutes, but it's kind of crazy throughout. If I'm honest, not fully my bag, and I'll get into why, but I'm sure there'll be some folks that'll be into this. Indonesia's premier female action star of the 1980s, Eva Arnaz, stars as Irma, a pregnant bar hostess with a troubled marriage, to put it lightly, to bulky lunk Rudy. Her life isn't great, but she's making the best of it. But things go quickly downhill for her when she's kidnapped and assaulted by a local drug lord named Cobra. She escapes her captors only to find her idiotic hubby less than sympathetic. When she refuses his demands that she abort their baby, he pushes her from a moving car. Meanwhile, Cobra betrays his business partner, Ronnie, played by the ubiquitous Indo character actor Dickie Zulkarnain, setting up a bloody gang war while in the background Rudy keeps trying and failing to get retribution on the criminals. These two narrative threads end up meeting in the film's truly explosive finale, that's putting it lightly, when Irma finally gets her ultra-violent revenge. I Want to Get Even is pure exploitation, pure trash, through and through, and the only thing uglier than the 1980s fashions on display is this film's sexual politics. Truly the sleaziest film made in the heyday of the Indonesian exploitation explosion, and Neon Eagle could not be more thrilled to bring it to U.S. home video for the first time since the VHS era. Warning, this film is not for the faint of heart or easily offended. I guess I fall into that category. 2K restoration, English audio with optional subtitles, as well as Indonesian language audio with English subtitles. Okay, spoiler-ish, I guess. What they're getting at is that, and what ultimately took me out of the movie, is that this movie is sort of about rough sexual encounters. Irma's character and her husband, he has a problem where he can't have sex with her unless he beats her while they have sex, and she's sort of gone along with that for whatever reason, and he tries it without that, and it doesn't work for him, and so that's a very troubling relationship. On top of which, Cobra, who has this gang that does all kinds of bad stuff. They deal in, I guess, drugs and weapons and prostitution, and he's very much into sexually assaulting women, and there's a lot of women getting kind of slapped around and assaulted, like so much that it did get to me after a while. I just can't get into that. It's not my vibe at all. So that's what they're trying to warn you about, and I get why they don't, they aren't more explicit about it, but if that is not your vibe, you will not like this movie. So yeah, I had a little trouble with it, if I'm honest, but the end is definitely pretty nuts, and there's some great, there's sort of a Chekhov's bazooka, if you will, in this movie that's set up and paid off in the last act of the movie in a pretty great way. But yeah, it's a little troubling. It's a little tricky, and so I have to be honest in that it wasn't fully for me, but others may be on board. So in terms of extras, it has an audio commentary by Andrew Leavold. It has reversible cover art. This cover art is pretty great, but there's also this reversible cover art as well. And this one comes with a booklet with an essay in it, which... yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. I think that's mentioned. Yeah, full color booklet with brand new essay by Alexandra Heller Nicholas, which is great to get some context. She's a good person to talk about, sexual politics, and one of the film critics and commenters I respect the most in the field, period, full stop. So interesting to have her aboard on this, and good to have her there. So it also has, let's see here. Is this an all region disc, or is it region A locked? This is an all region disc, and only 1,500 copies. It's 235-1. Again, a nice looking transfer from that 2K restoration. And if you're into Indonesian action movies, this will probably be in your wheelhouse, and they can be pretty crazy and pretty fun. But yeah, I just wanted to give that caveat to my viewing. And lastly, we have Frankenstein 80, which is another Cauldron Films title. And this one is from 1972, when Professor Schwartz invents a new serum that helps transplant patients better accept their new organs. Dr. Frankenstein quickly steals it to bring to life his greatest creation, Mosaic. Once alive, Mosaic is uncontrollable and escapes from the lab nightly to solicit prostitutes and leave a trail of corpses across the city that only seems to baffle the police and create a wave of fear. Mario Mancini, camera operator on Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace and Black Sunday, His only film as a director is a stylish, gory, and sleazy take on the Frankenstein story in true Italian exploitation fashion, with nods to giallo films, a streak of dark humor, featuring gruesome special effects by Carlo Rambaldi, who did E.T. and Bay of Blood, and starring Gordon Mitchell from Shanghai Joe, Zero Pappas, John Richardson from Black Sunday, Renato Romano from The Fifth Chord, and Dalila Di Lazzaro from Flesh for Frankenstein. Cauldron Films is delirious to present Frankenstein 80 uncensored and restored on Blu-ray for the first time to an unsuspecting North American audience. So yeah, this one is also equally nuts. Just the idea that this guy is the monster and he escapes to solicit prostitutes and kill them is strange. A strange Italian premise, but they definitely make the most of it, and it is pretty sleazy and nutty. Another one with a 2K restoration from the uncensored negative, English audio, English subtitles, Italian audio with English subtitles. Some extras here. We have Dalila Forever, the recorded memories of Dalila Di Lazzaro, as well as Little Frankenstein, History of Italian Frankenstein Films with Domenico Manetti, and audio commentary by film historian Heather Drain. Reversible wrap artwork. It looks like that. That may be even a more accurate representation of this film, although both artworks look pretty wild. Another one that is all region, but due to contractual obligations, they can only sell in the U.S. and Canada. But if you're into sleazy Italian Frankenstein knockoffs, this is your thing for sure. So that is all these Cauldron Films and one Neon Eagle film releases for you to check out. I think Ratman is my favorite of this group for sure, but they are all interesting and worthwhile in their own ways, and definitely a company to keep an eye on. I was really, really excited about their recent announcement of the Bravido Giallo box, which they announced on Black Friday, which I ordered right away, which includes Graveyard Disturbance, Until Death, The Ogre, and Dinner with a Vampire, and it's a limited 4 Blu-ray, 1 CD set. Their second box set after Houses of Doom, and I've only seen Graveyard Disturbance, which I am a big fan of and was very excited to see get announced on Blu-ray. If their Houses of Doom box set is any indication, this is a must-get for Italian horror fans. So I hope to talk about that one on the show at some point when it comes out. Looks like it has a ship date window of April of 2025. So you can still pre-order that. From Cauldron, international customers can order via Diabolic DVD. In fact, anyway, very excited about that stuff. And big thanks to Jesse and Brian for their work. And look forward to more announcements and Blu-rays from Cauldron and Neon Eagle. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.